Is when you stop being a victim and start being a creator. Your life right now is your report card. It is showing you exactly how disciplined you have been or how undisciplined you've been. And if you don't like the grades you're getting, you got to change the way you've been studying. You've got to change the way you've been showing up. You've got to change the way you've been living, because the same actions will always produce the same results. Always. That is not going to change. So you've got to change. See, most people got it twisted. They think freedom means doing whatever you want. Wake up at noon. Eat whatever. Skip the gym. Ignore the bills. Watch TV all day. They call all that freedom. But that ain't freedom. That is slavery. You are a slave to your appetites. You are a slave to your emotions. You are a slave to your circumstances. Because when you just do whatever feels good in the moment, you're giving away all your power to your feelings. And feelings change every 5 minutes when you live by your feelings. Your feelings control you. You don't control your feelings. So when you don't feel like going to work, you don't go. When you don't feel like saving money, you don't save. When you don't feel like being faithful, you aren't faithful. When you don't feel like keeping your word, you break it. And then you wonder why your life is a mess. Your life is a mess because you are being controlled by the weakest part of you, which is your moment-to-moment emotions. Let me paint you a picture of what this looks like. You wake up and you don't feel like getting up, so you sleep in. Now you're late. You're rushing. You skip breakfast or you eat garbage. You get to work already stressed. You perform poorly. You get criticized. Now you feel worse. You come home feeling bad about yourself. So you comfort yourself with food you shouldn't eat, or spending money you don't have, or watching shows for 6 hours to escape. Then you go to bed late. Wake up tired. And the whole cycle starts again. That is slavery. You are a slave to the cycle. You are a slave to your moods. You are a slave to your cravings. You are a slave to your need for comfort. And the worst part is, you think you're free because nobody is telling you what to do. But something is telling you what to do. Your weakness is telling you what to do. Your fear is telling you what to do. Your laziness is telling you what to do. You are just following orders from a different master. Real freedom looks different. Real freedom is waking up and your bills are paid. Real freedom is when your health is good, so you aren't worried about the doctor. Real freedom is money in the bank, so an emergency doesn't destroy you. Real freedom is skills in your mind, so you can create opportunities. Real freedom is discipline in your character, so people trust you and want to work with you. Real freedom is peace in your spirit, because you know you're doing what you're supposed to do. That kind of freedom don't come from doing whatever you want. That kind of freedom comes from doing what you need to do, especially when you don't want to do it. It comes from getting up when you're tired. It comes from working when you would rather play. It comes from saving when you would rather spend. It comes from learning when you would rather zone out. It comes from discipline. And here is what people don't tell you. Discipline actually feels better than laziness. Yeah, in the moment, the couch feels better than the gym. But 6 hours later, when you're lazy, you feel terrible about yourself. You feel guilty. You feel weak. You feel disappointed. But when you are disciplined, even though it was hard in the moment, you feel proud. You feel strong. You feel like you can trust yourself. And that feeling is better than any temporary comfort. Real freedom only comes after you master yourself. You cannot be free in the world if you are a prisoner to your own desires. The man who cannot control his eating will never control his destiny. The woman who cannot control her spending will never control her future. Because if you cannot control yourself, you will always be controlled by something else. By debt, due to bad health, by other people, by circumstances. You will always be at the mercy of external forces because you have no internal strength. Think about it like this. If you cannot say no to a donut, how are you going to say no to a bad business deal? If you cannot get yourself out of bed, how are you going to get yourself out of a tough situation? If you cannot make yourself do the small, hard things, How are you going to do the big hard things? Self-control in one area builds self-control in all areas. And lack of self-control in one area reveals lack of self-control everywhere. I see this all the time. Somebody wants to build a business, but they cannot even clean their own room. Somebody wants to lead a team, but they cannot even lead themselves to the gym 3 times a week. Somebody wants a promotion, but they show up late to the job they already have. You want more responsibility out there, but you won't take responsibility in here for yourself, for your own life, for your own habits. The world will give you what you prove you can handle. Right now, your life is showing you what you proved you can handle. You want more. You've got to prove you can handle more. And you prove that through self-mastery. You prove that through doing what you said you would do. You prove that through keeping promises to yourself. Because if you cannot keep a promise to yourself, why would anyone else trust your promises? Self-mastery is the foundation of everything. You want to master money, master yourself first. You want to master relationships, master yourself first. You want to master business, master yourself first. Everything external starts internally. Everything you see out there in your life is a reflection of what is going on in here in your habits, your thoughts, your disciplines, your character. And the beautiful thing about self-mastery is nobody can take it from you. They can take your money. They can take your job. They can take your house. They can take your car, but they cannot take your discipline. They cannot take your work ethic. They cannot take your skills. They cannot take your character. That is yours. And once you build that, you can rebuild anything else. So when I say you cannot be free in the world, if you are a prisoner to your desires, I mean that literally. Your desires will imprison you if you don't control them. Your desire for comfort will keep you broke. Your desire for approval will keep you small. Your desire for pleasure will keep you unhealthy. Your desire to avoid hard conversations will keep you in bad relationships. Your uncontrolled desires build your prison bar day by day, choice by choice. Now, let me break this down for you real simple. When you wake up early, even when you're tired, you're building freedom. When you go to that job, you don't like to pay your bills on time, you are building freedom. When you save money, instead of buying things to impress people you don't even like, you're building freedom. Every single time you choose discipline over comfort, you are buying your freedom. You are purchasing it with your effort. You are investing in it with your choices. Most people want freedom on sale. They want it cheap. They want it easy. They want it right now without the work. But freedom is expensive. It costs you your bad habits. It costs you your comfort zone. It costs you your excuses. It costs you to sleep in. It costs you junk food. It costs you time-wasting relationships. It costs you mindless entertainment. Freedom has a price, and that price is discipline. You cannot negotiate it. You cannot get a discount. You pay the price or you don't get the product. But here is what is crazy. You're paying a price either way. You either pay the price of discipline or you pay the price of regret. You either pay the price of hard work or you pay the price of struggle. You either pay the price of sacrifice or you pay the price of settling. Both cost something. But one gives you freedom and one gives you bondage. One builds you up and one tears you down. One creates possibilities and one creates limitations. The price of discipline weighs ounces, but the price of regret weighs tons. When you are disciplined, yeah, it is hard in the moment. That workout is hard. That budget is tight. That early morning is hard. That extra studying is hard. That honest conversation is hard. But it is hard for an hour, hard for a day, hard for a season. The price of regret is hard for years, hard for decades, hard for a lifetime. Don't be that person. Don't get to 60 years old wishing you had done at 30 what you know you should do today. Don't get to 40 looking back at 25 with regret. Don't get to next year wishing you had started today. Pay the price now. Pay it with your discipline. Pay it with your effort. Pay it with your sacrifice, because that price builds equity. That price is an investment. That price pays dividends. Every morning you wake up early, you build freedom equity. With every healthy meal, you are building freedom equity. Every dollar you save, you're building freedom equity. Every skill you learn, you are building freedom equity. Every temptation you resist, you build freedom equity. And that equity compounds, it grows, it multiplies, and one day you wake up and you realize you're rich. Not just financially, but rich in options, rich in health, rich in skills, rich in character, rich in peace, rich in actual real freedom. Discipline is doing what you hate to do, but doing it as you love it. That is the secret right there. Everybody can do what they love. That ain't special. But can you do what you hate with the same energy? That is what separates the successful from everybody else. See, anybody will work hard at something they're passionate about. Anybody will show up for something that excites them. That don't take any special character. That is easy. That is natural. But can you show up with energy for the boring work? Can you show up with excellence for the repetitive tasks? Can you show up with enthusiasm for the things that nobody sees? Can you show up with consistency for the work that ain't glamorous? That is the question, because most of success ain't glamorous. Most success is doing the same things over and over. Most of success is boring. Most success is repetitive. Most success is unglamorous discipline done daily. People see the highlight reel and they miss the behind the scenes. They see the championship, but they don't see the practice. They see the success, but they don't see the struggle. They see the body, but they don't see the workouts. They see the business, but they don't see the late nights. They see the harvest, but they don't see the planning and the watering and the weeding and the waiting. They want the result without the process. They want the destination without the journey. But the journey is where you become the person who deserves the destination. The process is where you develop the character that can handle success. The boring daily discipline is where you build the foundation that can support the dream. And if you don't love the process, you will never make it to the result. If you cannot do the boring work with energy, you will quit before you succeed. So you've got to find a way to fall in love with the process. You've got to find a way to get energy from doing what you don't want to do. And here's how you do that. You connect it to your why. You connect it to your vision. You connect it to your purpose. You don't wake up early just to wake up early. You wake up early because you are building a business that will give your family security. You don't eat healthy just to eat healthy. You eat healthy because you want to be around to see your grandkids grow up. Every discipline you do, connect it to something bigger than the task itself. That is how you get energy for the boring work. That is how you show up with enthusiasm for the repetitive tasks. Because you are not just doing the task. You're building a dream. You are creating a future. You are becoming a different person. You're breaking generational curses. You're setting new standards. You're proving something to yourself. That is what gives you energy. And when you start doing what you hate as you love it, that is when everything changes. That is when you become unstoppable. Because now you are not dependent on motivation. You are not dependent on feelings. You are not dependent on perfect conditions. You can produce in any condition. You can perform in any circumstance. You can show up no matter what. And that makes you valuable. That makes you rare. That makes you successful. I see people every day complaining about their situation, but they aren't willing to change their habits. You want a better body, but you won't stop eating garbage. You want more money, but you won't learn new skills. You want a better relationship, but you won't work on yourself first. And that is crazy to me. You're sitting there mad about where you at, but you keep doing the same things that got you there. You want different results from the same actions. That ain't how life works. Your situation is not your problem. Your habits are your problem. Your situation is just the result. The fruit is bad because the root is bad. The tree is producing bad fruit because you planted bad seeds and you are watering them every day with bad habits. You cannot have good fruit from bad roots. You cannot have a good life with bad habits. It is impossible. The math don't work. The formula don't work. The science don't work. But people keep trying. They keep hoping that somehow their life will get better while they stay the same. They keep buying lottery tickets instead of building skills. They keep waiting for a lucky break instead of creating opportunities through preparation. They keep looking for shortcuts instead of putting in the work. They keep wanting someone to save them instead of saving themselves through discipline. Nobody is coming to save you. That is the truth you need to hear. Your mama ain't coming. Your daddy ain't coming. The government ain't coming. Your boss ain't coming. That perfect partner ain't coming. Nobody is coming to rescue you from your own bad habits. You are the cavalry. You are the hero of your own story. You are the only one who can change your situation by changing your habits. And you know what you need to change. You already know. You ain't confused. You are not lacking information. You are lacking execution. You know you need to stop eating that. You know you need to start saving. You know you need to have that conversation. You know you need to learn that skill. You know you need to end that relationship. You know you need to start that project. You know, you just ain't doing it. You're complaining instead of changing. Complaining is easy. Changing is hard. Complaining makes you feel like you're doing something when you ain't doing anything. Complaining permits you to stay the same because you can blame something else. But changing requires you to take responsibility. Changing requires you to admit that you've been wrong. Changing requires you to do hard things. Changing requires discipline. So people complain instead of changing. But here is what complaining gets you: nothing. Complaining gets you absolutely nothing except maybe some sympathy from other complainers. But sympathy don't pay bills. Sympathy don't build businesses. Sympathy don't create health. Sympathy don't develop skills. Sympathy don't change anything. Action changes things. Discipline changes things. New habits change things. And that requires you to stop complaining and start moving. Your habits are building your future right now, today, this very moment. Every time you hit that snooze button, you're building your future. Every time you choose the couch over the goal, you're building your future. The question is, what kind of future are you building? Because you are building something you cannot build. Every day is a construction day. Every choice is laying a brick. You are either building the life you want or you are building the life you don't want. But you are building. Think about it like you are a contractor and your life is the house. Every day you show up to the construction site and you lay bricks. Now you can lay bricks for the dream house or you can lay bricks for the nightmare house. But you're laying bricks either way. Time is passing either way. Days are coming and going either way. The question is, what are you building with those days? What are you constructing with those hours? What foundation are you laying with those choices? Most people ain't even thinking about it. They are just living day to day, reacting, responding, surviving. They aren't building anything on purpose. They're just letting life happen to them. And then they are surprised when they end up somewhere they don't want to be. But you ain't end up there by accident. You built that. One choice at a time, one day at a time, one habit at a time. The good news is you can start building something different right now. You don't have to tear down everything you built. You just start building differently from this moment forward. You start laying different bricks. You start making different choices. You start building toward a different destination. And yeah, it might take time to see the structure. It might take months before you see the frame. It might take years before you see the finished house. But it is being built. Every good choice is progress. Every disciplined decision is a construction. But you've got to be intentional. You've got to have a blueprint. You've got to know what you're building toward. You cannot just make random good choices and hope it works out. You need a vision. You need a plan. You need to know what the finished house is supposed to look like so you know what bricks to lay today. Without a vision, you're just laying bricks randomly and that don't build anything but a pile. So what is your vision? What are you building? What do you want your life to look like in 5 years? What do you want your health to look like? What do you want your bank account to look like? What do you want your relationships to look like? What do you want your skills to look like? What do you want your daily routine to look like? Get clear on that. Write it down. Make it real. Because that vision is what tells you what bricks to lay today.